everyone and welcome to Rulebreaker. Today we're going to have a quick look at how to play as the L1Z1X Mindnet in Twilight Imperium 4th edition. These guys are quite militaristic, they like fighting, they like their dreadnoughts, they like bombarding planets and killing troops. They don't make a lot of friends, and if you're playing as these guys, expect to be rolling a lot of dice. So let's take a look at what you start out with as the L1Z1X, as I'm going to call them from now on. Your starting technology is going to be neural motivator and plasma scoring, which is these two here. Neural motivator, which is during the status phase, draw 2 action cards instead of 1. That's quite a nice little advantage to have early. More action cards is always welcome in this game. And plasma scoring, when one or more of your units use bombardment or space cannon, one of those units may roll an additional die. That's really interesting, especially when you're these guys who like to do lots of bombarding. It just gives you an extra shot. You also have quite an unusual starting setup with ships. You've got a dreadnought right at the very start. That's this big guy here. You've got only one carrier, so you won't have a lot of ships to fly around and conquer new planets straight away. You get 3 fighters, these little ships here. You get 5 infantry, which is quite a lot. It's 5 of these flags here. These are for conquering planets. And you get your space dock as usual, but you also get a PDS. PDS allows you to defend systems by firing at ships that move into them. This is your starting system. It has the name 000. It's only one planet. It's a good planet though. It's got 5 resources and 0 influence. While you don't have any influence, you do have 5 here, which means that when you put your space dock down at the start of the game, you actually have a production capacity of 7, which means you can build 7 units right at the very start on this planet. That's a lot. It gives you a lot of options very early. Alright, let's take a look at the stuff you're going to have throughout the game. All of your different units here. Here's your abilities. These are what make you unique in this game as a L1Z1X player. The first one is Assimilate. When you gain control of a planet, replace each PDS and space dock that is on that planet with a matching unit from your reinforcements. Wow, that's pretty cool. So let's have a look at that in an example. Normally what happens is when you say you're the red player here, if you kill the infantry on a planet and you send your own troops down, the space dock is destroyed and the PDS is destroyed. What your Assimilate ability allows you to do is actually convert them into your own unit. So you would take these away, you would take the planets, and you would turn those into your own, which is really good, because normally to build a space dock or a PDS you need to take the construction strategy card, which is this one here, which is literally exactly all it does is either put in a space dock or a PDS and then put in a PDS, or do the secondary where you've got to spend a token to do one or the other. So having that Assimilate ability is a really interesting way of having an option away from picking construction. And the other ability here is Harrow. After each round of ground combat, so that's each round of ground combat, your ships in the active system may use their bombardment abilities against your opponent's ground forces on the planet. So let's just take a look at that real quick. Dreadnoughts have bombardment, which means that they can fire down at the planet from space. Normally when invasion combat happens, you drop your troops down to do some ground combat, and at the very start bombardment can happen. This means that you roll some dice and you can fire and potentially destroy some of your opponent's units. This only happens at the start of ground combat normally, but for the L1Z1X you can actually do this each round. It doesn't matter if ground combat is 1 round or 2 rounds or 10 rounds, this dreadnought can fire each time, meaning you've got a greater chance of killing your opponent's troops and claiming those planets. It's also worth noting that Harrow doesn't affect your own units on the planet. Normally bombardment happens just as your guys are landing thematically. Even though they're on the planet, you're not going to be able to hurt your own guys. It's something that's clearly written in the rules. In case you haven't noticed, you're not going to be making a lot of friends as these guys normally, which is probably why you've only got 2 commodities max for trading with. Trading is not going to be your speciality. I'm not saying to ignore it, but don't rely on it, especially when you can only give out 2 commodities each time. Also up here in the top corner you've got details of the L1Z1X flagship. 001 is its name. It costs 8 to put in, which is pretty standard. It has really good combat rolls though. It hits twice on a 5, which is really strong. It has 1 movement and it's got a high capacity 5 here, so you can carry quite a lot of fighters or infantry with you. This is the flagship here. Its ability is, during a space combat, hits produced by this ship and by your dreadnoughts in this system must be assigned to non-fighter ships if able. So normally a player might have quite a lot of fighters with them, these little guys here, and use them as basically lives for their good ships. What this guy does is it prevents that from happening. The player's going to have to use all of their really juicy ships before they can pick off their fighters. So it's quite interesting. The fact that it also applies to your dreadnoughts is really good because, as you'll see in a second, dreadnoughts are kind of your thing. Let's take a look at your promissory note that you may give out to people. If you give this to somebody, they'll have a little power over you. It's called Cybernetic Enhancements. At the start of your turn, this is the player who you've given it to. Remove 1 token from the L1Z1X player's strategy pool and return it to his reinforcements. Then place 1 command token from your reinforcements in your strategy pool. Then return this card to the L1Z1X player. And yeah, by giving this to somebody, you're essentially saying, hey, you can slow me down. It's probably not the most devastating thing to have happen to you if you do give it to somebody. You know, you might get something pretty good for this actually if you hand it out. So you know, don't dismiss it totally out of hand. You also have 2 technologies, just like every other race. That's the Inheritance Systems and this unit upgrade, Super Dreadnought 2. Let's take a look at those. Alright, so Inheritance Systems. You may exhaust this card and spend 2 resources when you research a technology. Ignore all of that technology's prerequisites. Yeah, that's pretty good. So that allows you to basically ignore any prereqs for any technology in the game, including the likes of the War Zone, which if we take a look here, has quite a lot of them here, 3 reds and a yellow. I mean, that's going to be pretty tough to get normally, but wow, this one's really interesting and you should consider it. The yellow techs are not my favorite techs in the game. They do have their uses, but by getting those you give yourself a lot of opportunity later in the game. The other technology is Super Dreadnought 2. It's worth noting that actually the L1Z1X start with Super Dreadnought 1 instead of standard Dreadnought 1. They're cost 4 with combat hit of 5 with 1 move and 2 capacity. What the Super Dreadnought 2 allows you to do is it boosts the combat to 4 and lets you move 2, which makes them really fast. Their bombardment goes down to 4 as well, making it easier to bombard with, which goes nicely with your special ability Harrow that we just spoke about. The best thing probably about them though is the ability on them here. This unit cannot be destroyed by direct hit action cards. Any veteran Twilight Imperium player will tell you that you always kind of have a little fear of a direct hit card coming in and destroying any of your ships that you use sustained damage with. You don't need to worry about that when you've got this going on. It's just an extra bit of insurance for who takes all your hits in all of the combat you're probably going to be doing throughout the game. And that's how you play as the L1Z1X Mindnet. A couple of tips for you. Bear in mind that I'm not the greatest player at this game, especially with the very aggressive races like these guys. I'd say don't be afraid to piss people off with these guys. Just go for it. Make enemies, do your stuff, attack, bombard, take planets, steal things, completely ignore all kinds of peace treaties, particularly later on in the game. Just go hell for leather. I would recommend going for the Dreadnoughts and the Super Dreadnought 2 technology. It's just like a killing machine. If you also happen to be lucky enough to get your Inheritance Systems, you can get War Zones, and if you're producing enough resources from conquering lots of planets, you'll become this military snowball that just gets out of control and becomes this massive power in the galaxy. You only start with 1 carrier, which is not going to allow you to expand very quickly, so build a couple of those as quickly as possible and get more infantry out there to start conquering planets. do as much bombarding and taking planets with those guys as you possibly can. I think the Lizics are one of the toughest races to win with, but they're really fun. Hopefully that gives you enough to get started and enjoy your game of Twilight Imperium with these guys. Just remember, stay friends after the game. Don't let your military conquest destroy future games for you. And have a lot of fun with these guys. So thanks for watching, and it's been Rulebreaker. Thank you.